What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. First of all, I want to say a massive thank you to all of you for 2,500 subscribers. That is absolutely awesome. It's a great time. It's nearly Christmas. It's coming around the corner. And obviously, we have week 18 predictions today in this video and a little look back at my week 17 predictions, which probably have been my most accurate predictions since starting the channel. For those of you that care, I also had my driving test today, my practical test, and I passed, which is awesome. So I'll be on the roads very, very soon. So just thought I'd update you there with that. This week's video shout out goes to Beckham Dominic for leaving his predictions down in the comments. If you want to be featured like my good man Beckham Dominic here, then you can leave your predictions for the games that I'm talking about in this video, your predictions for them in the comments and what you think is going to happen. So anyway, let's take a look back at the week 17 fixtures and results and how I did. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, this has probably been my best week so far. If there were a couple other goals taken from one game put into another, that sort of thing, it was very close. I could have ended up with 7 correct scores. So, you know, a very, very good week. But nevertheless, let's get straight into it. Kicking it off, we have Manchester City versus Everton. And I correctly predicted that this one would finish 3-1. A solid prediction. I did watch, I think, the first half of that game, and Everton had chances. They did have chances, and then there were a couple little errors at the back that did cost them a little bit. But still, 3-1, a fantastic prediction that I was proud of. The next game, Crystal Palace versus Leicester. This was one of the ones that I did actually get wrong. I predicted a 2-1 away win to Leicester, but Crystal Palace did the business. They got the home win, just 1-0, keeping it nice and tight, under 2.5, able to get a win that was much needed for them. Leicester, you never really know what you're going to get, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go from here, because actually they recently went out of the Carabao Cup against Manchester City on penalties. Unfortunate for them, the last 3 times since the year 2000 they've been in the quarterfinals, which are the only 3 times they've gone out to Manchester City twice on penalties. So that's really gotta suck for them. That's very unfortunate. The next game, Huddersfield versus Newcastle. I correctly predicted that Newcastle would win this one 1-0, keeping it tight. I love it when I correctly predict a 1-0 score prediction. I just feel those are very satisfying ones to predict. I think the most satisfying score prediction to get right would be a 0-0. Mostly because it doesn't happen that often, but also I very rarely predict it. So for that both to happen would be insane. So maybe one day it'll happen. But yeah, 1-0 correct score right there. The next game, Tottenham versus Burnley. I predicted a 3-0 convincing win to Tottenham, and although Tottenham had a lot of chances, Burnley kept them all the way down to the wire. Tottenham scoring an injury time goal, getting them the 1-0 win. So I got the correct result, but the wrong scoreline there. The next game is Watford versus Cardiff. Now I was looking well set. 10 minutes to go. The score was 3-1 to Watford just after Cardiff got their goal, and I predicted Watford would win this one 3-1. But then Cardiff go and grab another, thanks to some sleepy defending, I guess, from Watford. To give the result a 3-2 finish, so just slightly different from the 3-1. The next game, the Wolves versus Bournemouth game, I actually predicted this one to be a 2-2, and Bournemouth did have a load of shots. They had chances, but they just could not finish the job, and Wolves got the 2 goals I expected and won the game 2-0. The next game, I actually said in the video, some people might think I'm being a little bit brave here in this prediction, saying that West Ham would keep a clean sheet against Fulham, and although Fulham did have chances, again, I watched the first half of that game, I always seem to get busy at half time. But they did have chances, Fulham, but West Ham did get a 2-0 victory, both goals coming in the first half. So that was my 3rd correct score of the week. Moving on, it just keeps getting better. Another correct score for Chelsea. I predicted that Chelsea would beat Brighton away from home 2-1 in a very close battle at the Amex Stadium, and that is how it ended, 2-1 to Chelsea. So 4 correct scores so far, doing very well. The next game, the big upset of the week and the shock to my predictions. I predicted a 3-1 win to Arsenal, and it was reversed. It was a 3-2 win to Southampton. Now, obviously, Arsenal weren't up at half-time. A late Danny Ings goal made it 2-1 to Southampton. But then when you see in the 50th, I think it was 52nd minute, you see Arsenal get an equaliser and it's 2-2. You think, right, Arsenal are well on their way to once again picking up 3 points from a losing position or from being down at half time, and it just never happened for them. And they actually lost the game, which was a very big shock. The final game, Liverpool versus Manchester United. I gave Man United quite a lot of credit in this one, just thinking they would do something because, you know, they have a decent record against Liverpool, I guess. Mourinho had a good record against Klopp, and I said maybe Man United would just randomly do quite well in this game, out of character, it seems recently. Burnley, and I said Liverpool would get the 2-1 win, but Liverpool actually were all over them and got the 3-1 win, which could have been 4, 5 or 6 goals to 1, and the Liverpool goal was, or the Man United goal I should say, was only a mistake, a rare mistake it has to be said, from Alisson. So either way, a very good week. I had 7 correct results, the ones wrong being the Wolves Bournemouth game, Crystal Palace Leicester game, and the Arsenal Southampton game, and then I had 4 correct scores. So a very good week for me there. Now I'm interested to see how well I do in the next week off the back of such a good week. So we have week 18 starting it off with Wolves versus Liverpool. Now Wolves are in electric form, one of the, I guess you could say, lower teams, but not really, but you'll see what I mean, one of the lower teams that have a very good record against the bigger clubs, at least this season. Obviously they're in the Championship last year, it's been a while since they've been in the Premier League, so it's hard to compare, but they drew with Manchester City. Yes, the goal went in off the Wolves player's hand, but we won't talk about that. They drew with Man United, they beat Chelsea, which was just phenomenal. So I don't know if they've played Spurs yet, they probably have, but either way, they have a great record against these higher clubs, so it is going to be a tough game. It is Wolves at home. I'm pretty sure Liverpool did win the last time Liverpool and Wolves played against each other, 3-0 at Wolves ground, and I think Wolves have come a long way since then in a good way, but I also think Liverpool have come a long way since then in a good way. I think a lot of people will say this game might be a little bit closer, but I'm going for a solid but entertaining end-to-end but no breakthrough for Wolves 2-0 win to Liverpool. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. I think I'm very similar with this prediction as I was with the West Ham Fulham game. I think Fulham, like Fulham did, I think Wolves are going to get chances, but I think Liverpool are just going to keep them to 2-0 because Liverpool's defence game this season has been so strong. That was very clear. You know, they needed a 1-0 win against Napoli. They got the 1-0 win. They held it there. That was a phenomenal performance from Liverpool, and I think they are going to get a clean sheet here. The next game is Arsenal versus Burnley. Burnley were definitely unlucky to lose in the end to Tottenham, given that they went 90 minutes without conceding, and Arsenal, their back line is just weak. They do have some injury troubles. I think Bellerin went off injured. It's difficult. It is difficult for Arsenal, but I think for a team like Burnley, I know Southampton aren't, considered really much in the Premier League, but they do have good attacking power, particularly with Danny Ings up top. For them, but I do think Arsenal are going to win this one, especially at home, and I'm going with a 3-1 win to Arsenal. I think they will concede. I think they're like that. I reckon, Aaron Lennon might push forward on the break and just really whip a ball in and just create a header. I think it's going to be a header for Burnley. That seemed to be the problem with Southampton as well. But I do think Arsenal are going to get back to winning ways and get this one 3-1. They need to. They need to win a game like this and bounce back from their loss if they're going to stay, looking at the top 4. Because if Chelsea and Tottenham and all that pull away, it might be difficult, and they might start after look behind them than in front of them. And that's not what Arsenal want. The next game, however, is Bournemouth versus Brighton. This is going to be a tough one because Bournemouth at home, you definitely would favour them. I would say they are the favourites, but their form lately hasn't been that great. I've said every week, at first I put it down to a tough run of fixtures, but now they are starting to not get results out of games that they should have done. Obviously, they lost to Wolves, and then they got absolutely destroyed by Liverpool. That, I guess, you would expect, but those are the last 2 results. I am going to go for Bournemouth to return to a victory here, 2-1 against Brighton. It's very close between those two in the table, so it'll be interesting to see how that game ends up. The next game is Chelsea versus Leicester. Now, Chelsea, they beat Brighton 2-1. Very good result, to be honest. I think it's harder to go away to Brighton than a lot of people give credit, and they did well there. And obviously, they beat Manchester City 2 weeks before, so they are turning up for it. They are looking good, and they're looking excited for this game. Leicester, on the other hand, they did lose to Crystal Palace, which is not what you'd expect. Crystal Palace in pretty bad form. I know Leicester have struggled with injuries, but every club at this period of time does struggle with injuries, and I was surprised that Leicester didn't get at least a draw out of the Palace game, and that's why I'm going to go for, similar to the Liverpool Wolves result, just a solid 2-0 home win to Chelsea, kind of staying in third gear for the whole game, not really having to push too much, keeping it solid at the back, that sort of thing. The next game is a very, very interesting one, and that is Huddersfield versus Southampton. Had you asked me this 3 weeks ago, I might have said the reverse result, but I'm pretty sure Aaron Moy, I think he's injured for Huddersfield. He had a stroke of brilliance against Wolves when they got a really, really good 2-0 win there. And Southampton, they've always been able to attack. With Danny Ings in the team, he's great at going forward. What a great loan he has been. And I just see Southampton taking the confidence from the Arsenal game, travelling away to Huddersfield and actually getting a win, and I'm going to go with a low-scoring 1-0 win to Southampton here. That's going to be a very, maybe not the most exciting game, but a very interesting result nonetheless. The next game, Manchester City, second place, Manchester City against Crystal Palace. I've gone for an absolute demolishing 4-0. Now, Man City have got, I believe, Sergio Aguero and De Bruyne back, which, by the way, what a great pair of players to return from injury at the same time. I did see De Bruyne's goal against Leicester in the Carabao Cup, and the finish was a really good, solid finish, but the way in which he got it to that stage, the little bit of skill just outside the box to bring it onto his, I think he brought it onto his right and then whipped it to his left, something like that, and then scored. It was a brilliant goal, and it looks like he's never left. He's such a quality player, and if he is playing and running that midfield, they're gonna be leagues above what they have been recently, and they've been great, and they're really gonna put the pressure on Liverpool. They are gonna be an unstoppable force against Crystal Palace, and that's why I'm going for a 4-0. The following fixture is an interesting one. It's Newcastle versus Fulham, and I'm going for a few more goals than you might expect here, obviously because Fulham have a dreadful defence. Now, there's bad defending, and then there's Fulham. They are the only team in the top 4 tiers of English football, the Premier League down to League 2, that haven't kept a clean sheet all season. That's disgraceful. That's absolutely insane. And unfortunately for Fulham, they're not facing the Newcastle that couldn't find the back of the net. They're facing a Newcastle team that are not only they're scoring goals, but they're also getting, they're getting decent results. Like, they did lose to Wolves just at the end, but that, they did play for 10 men for half an hour. That was a couple of weeks ago, and they got the win against Huddersfield. But instead of the low scoring games that Newcastle have been seeing, I'm actually going to say it's going to be a little bit higher, mostly because they're against Fulham. Obviously Fulham lost 4-1 to United and 2-0 to West Ham. I think when West Ham got the second goal, they never really pushed that much more. I'm going for a 3-1 win to Newcastle. This would be one of my favourite results to get right. I think just a prediction like that for Newcastle would be a really tasty scoreline. The next game is West Ham against Watford. Now, West Ham have been doing extremely well. They're pushing right up into the top half of the table, where a lot of people predicted they would actually finish, and they're doing it with injuries in the squad. It seems that with Arnautovic, the main man, of course, out of the team, it frees up all of the players to play together more as a unit. There is that element. If there is a player that is so far above the rest, and he is really, really good. I'm not saying he's like that far above the whole entire squad, but he is obviously your main man. He's really good. It can be a bit of the mindset of, got to pass to Arnie, whenever you get the chance sort of thing. And now West Ham really are performing well as a team, as a unit, and the individual talents are really coming out, and they're playing well together. And Watford, don't get me wrong, they're playing all right. They're playing decent football. They obviously beat Cardiff, which was a good result for them. Then the previous result for them before that, if I just have a quick little look here, was a 2-2 draw with Everton, and they were unlucky not to get a win out of that. It was obviously a late free kick that did it. So they are really good on offensively. But the only reason I'm going for the result I'm going is they conceded 2 late goals to Cardiff. They conceded a late goal to Everton. They can't seem to hold on to the victories lately. If I just go back to week 15, what was the result before that? They lost 2-1 to Man City. So again, not absolutely terrible, but they still did lose. The game before that, they lost 2-0 to Leicester, and the game before that, they lost 3-0 to Liverpool. So Watford are actually on a streak of not winning, a winless streak for as far back as my records go the last 5 weeks. So that is unfortunate for them, and I just think West Ham are going to get a 2-1 win, being a bit tighter at the back than Watford, and obviously being with the home advantage. I think that's going to help them there. The next game, the big game. This, in my opinion, is one of the biggest games of the weekend. It's Cardiff versus Manchester United. This is so interesting on a number of different levels. Obviously, Jose Mourinho's got sacked. I haven't spent enough time learning how to pronounce Man United's new interim manager. It's the guy from Norway, played for Manchester United. He's a legend for them, and he managed Cardiff until getting fired a few years ago, and he's going back to Cardiff with Manchester United. It's going to be great. I think had Jose Mourinho gone, it would have been like just a normal sort of ugly win for Manchester United, and it just wouldn't have really invigorated the fans. But now there's so many levels to it. There's the new manager, there's the fact he's returning to Cardiff, there's the fact that Cardiff's home form is so much better than their away form, and you could see something great happen here for Cardiff. I do think that the Man United players are going to be so up for this and really will want to make a statement with this guy as the new manager, at least for now. And I think Man United are going to get the 3-1 win against Cardiff. Unfortunate for Cardiff to face them in this stage. I reckon had Mourinho been there, had morale been low, Cardiff 1-1, 2-2, that kind of scoreline. But I think Man United are just going to push and show what they can do. The final game, another big one. It is Everton versus Tottenham. Now, this one is going to be difficult because Tottenham have been very clinical, the way in which they're winning games. Obviously, they lost to Arsenal, which was a pretty big result for them, and then but they did beat Leicester recently as well, and they did beat Burnley just. Everton, however, they're not doing too bad. I mean, they did manage to get the draw against Watford, which was good for them. And what was their result last week? Everton, where? for art thou. They lost 3-1 to Manchester City. Some defensive errors there. But I think it's catching up to Tottenham a little bit. I think they've been getting wins that they need to. Obviously, they drew against Barcelona. That was great. They just won against Burnley. That was great for them. You know, they're getting decent results, and I think it's going to catch up to them in this fixture. Everton at home. Out of the top 6, Everton at home, or Everton away as far as Tottenham is concerned. One of the hardest fixtures to go and play. It's a risky prediction. If I had to pick a winner, I would pick Tottenham, but I'm going with a 1-1 scoreline for this game. So that is it. That is the final fixture for the Week 18 Premier League predictions. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like on it. Leave your comments down below to be featured in the next episode. And yeah, subscribe today. Be sure to hit the bell so you don't miss a single video. And I'll see you in the next video very soon.